Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Shahrzad Nuravi. I'm a business psychologist, and after years of leaders asking me, tell me what to do to create an amazing culture, I wrote A Powerful Culture Starts With You. Today I'm talking about the final step of the Watch It series, which is take charge of growing yourself and your culture. On this journey of videos, I have talked about Watch It, which is a model for examining your culture with a fresh set of eyes. The first step is walk around. The second step is ask, seek, explore. The third step is take in feedback. The fourth step is see, clarify, and understand. The fifth step is handle your ego. The sixth step is inspire a new plan. And today I'm talking about taking charge of growing yourself and your culture as a new way of being. As I partner with leaders on creating excellent leadership styles, part of it is looking at their natural energies and learning what is really working and what are some areas to update and change. And over the years, I've noticed patterns of behavior where what is actually really working is also part of what has become overplayed into a weakness. So isn't it interesting that our biggest strengths could also turn into some of our biggest challenges? And what I wanted to share today were a few patterns that I've seen that impact leaders, their teams, and the company culture. As I talk about each of these styles, it will probably remind you of someone on your team. It might remind you of yourself. And the question to ask oneself is, where did I learn this style? Where was it positively reinforced? How has it helped me? And how is it not helping me anymore? Certain behaviors that were helpful in one context may no longer be helpful. I once met someone who was in broadcast news, and she told me she had a very direct style, and you're about to go on air, so it completely makes sense. And when she began working at a nonprofit, that style no longer worked. People who work in nonprofits, so many people are passionate and kind-hearted, and so having that type of behavior, which was very direct and almost to the point of harsh, was a shock to their system. And so that same behavior that worked in one setting no longer worked in another setting. I'm going to share 3 dimensions of personality that shows up in leaders and impacts their team and their culture. The first one is what I call head versus heart. The leader who has a very direct style, a rational style, a logical style, may often say, it's just business, or don't take it personal. And when we have a particular style and someone else has that style, it works, it's fine. And it's often not the case that it works for everyone. And in fact, this type of leadership could become too direct. It could become the opposite and antithesis of relationship building. And so when I have leaders who have this style, who get feedback that they're too direct or too harsh, the question is, how do you keep that style where you are putting the truth on the table and there's beauty to that? And how do you do it in a way that's kind? How do you do it in a way that saves face and doesn't embarrass people? When you have that style, it could be very disengaging and turn people off. We have to pay attention to different generations in the workplace, and millennials and Generation Z team members may feel particularly turned off by that behavior. And so it's important to really look at ourselves and ask, is this helpful? How can I update this? How can I keep the essence of my values, that talking about the truth is important, holding people accountable is important, and do it in a way that inspires people? On the other side of this personality continuum are people who are indirect, and they are all about harmony. And there's a beauty to this style as well, because they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. They want to create an environment that feels inspiring. Where it becomes overplayed is when there is such a desire to keep the harmony that the important feedback that needs to be given isn't given. That things people need to be held accountable for, they aren't being held accountable for. False harmony gets you nowhere. It just teaches people to brush problems under the rug. And when I have clients with this style, I work with them to find ways to share their voice, to create structure and accountabilities so that there are metrics when they need to measure people's performance. It's much easier to point something out that was agreed to and has clear accountabilities than to something that was just an oral agreement. The second area that I talk about in the book is safety versus risk. There's a type that the Workplace Big Five talks about. It's a great assessment that I use, who are implementers. They are detail-oriented. They are the ones who execute the plans from A to Z, and every organization needs them just as much as they need the people who innovate and come up with new ideas. But I'll get to that in a moment. So implementers, what can happen is when someone introduces a new idea, they'll say, why now? Why should we spend that money? What's going to be our return on investment? Who else is doing it? What if we don't do it? And these are all great questions. Where this person needs to be aware of their style is that they could become resistant to change. They may only want to make small changes because they so trust their judgment and their experience, which is great. But every time we want to innovate, it is a risk. It's a leap. It's doing the best research you can and taking a little bit of a risk or a big risk. And so the thing that these types need to be aware of is not to be negative in the face of change, not to be resistant, but to be curious and expressed. The other type of safety versus risk are those who bring innovation to the organization, who are scanning the environment, who are reading trade journals, who are going to conventions and bringing innovation. And we need these types as much as we need the implementer types. And in fact, the perfect senior team would have a combination of these. And of course, it's so much easier to work with people who completely get us and think like us and act like us, but the best teams are the ones that have diverse viewpoints and experiences. And what these leaders who are bringing a lot of ideas need to be aware of is that you need to manage change. You need to make sure people are on board and have your due diligence, have your buy-in and your input, and create a plan for execution. And what I see when leaders have this high innovative style is they could be throwing out a lot of new plans regularly and not taking it to the end and not following through. And the last style to be aware of is what I call today versus tomorrow. The today style are agile and flexible, and you can throw any emergency at them, and they have the personality type that they are actually kind of excited to meet problems where they are. They're very agile, they are comfortable with last minute change, and this is a very important trait to have in an organization. Think about HR leaders who are working with employee relations issues. They don't know what's coming in the door every day, yet they have the style that they are ready for it. They are energized by it. What these leaders need to make sure they're taking time for is to create strategy and follow strategy. And that is something that is not necessarily a natural energy, yet it is so important in their role. The tomorrow leader is organized and focused and structured and has a plan for everything and creates methodologies for everything. Sounds great, doesn't it? It is, and where this leader needs to pay attention so that this strength stays in the strength zone and doesn't become overplayed into a weakness is when this leader has created such a beautiful, perfect plan, and there's accountabilities on who does what by when. And when new information starts emerging from the customer, from the industry that would change this plan, there is a tendency to kind of ignore it or not want to see it. And you might think, oh, that's strange. Why would they do that? It's human nature when you have a natural energy and it works for you to follow it. And I've seen it many times over the years. And the question is, how can that leader along the way check in and make sure that this long-term plan for this project still works and it's still on track. And to seek to learn, is there any new information we need in case we need to make adjustments to this plan? And again, I work with these leaders to understand, where did they learn this style? How does it help? And where might the leader need to add new behaviors? So here's to you watching your culture from a place of openness and curiosity. Here's to you partnering with other leaders to get another set of eyes on what you are looking at, so that together you can create an amazing culture where people want to stay and give their best work and help bring on other high performers. If this message has resonated with you, please feel free to watch the Drive It series, where I talk about creating a coaching model and I share how you can coach others. Please watch the Walk It series, which is a senior team alignment model, and check out the other videos that I have created based on the challenges that I see in organizations every day and through the many years of doing this work. Thank you, and see you in the next series.